Welcome to the LDA Podcast, a series by the Learning Disabilities Association of America. Our podcast is dedicated to exploring topics of interest to educators, individuals with learning disabilities, parents, and professionals to work towards our goal of creating a more equitable world. Hi everyone, welcome to the LDA Podcast. I'm here today with Meghan Buchanan. She's an adventure athlete, rocket scientist, and dyslexia advocate. This is Meghan's second time on the podcast, so be sure to tune into From Injury to Everest, Dyslexia Gave Me Grit. It was a great episode. Meghan is in the process of completing the Explorers Grand Slam, where adventurers reach the highest mountain peaks of each of the 7 continents and skiing the North and South Poles. And Meghan was also most recently on season 2 of Netflix's show Outlast, a raw survival competition series where 16 lone wolf experts are dropped in the Alaskan wilderness and must outlast each other in a battle for $1 million payout. There's only one rule in this cutthroat game: they must be a part of a team to win. Outlast is available now on Netflix. So Meghan, thank you so much.
It's great to be
The first 6
back.
episodes just out, so we are so glad to have you back on the show again. Even though I know you're super busy, but we love having you on the show.
I love, yeah, no, I'm so honored to be here. Yeah, there is just a lot going on, and I still have, besides all the adventuring, I've got a expedition coming up in 16 days, leaving the country, but I still have a full-time job as an aerospace engineer, so I have that
I
thrown in
don't know
there
how
too.
you do it. Oh my gosh.
Not a lot of sleep.
Well, I'd love to dive into more of that. Just to start off, would you be able to tell us about your principles of grit and how your dyslexia created your sense of perseverance?
Yes, I would love to. So I do have 5 tools that it all started for me. I realize as being dyslexic and the things I had to go through in life to overcome my challenges and obstacles. But grit, which is gratitude, growth, resilience, integrity, and tenacity. Those are the 5 things. And I do kind of think it's funny that there's 2 G's. So grit is spelled wrong, and it's a little play on words there. But anyway, so those are the 5 keys that can get you through any obstacle that's been thrown at you that you didn't choose, or a challenge or a goal that you've chosen for yourself. And simply, gratitude is the foundation of anything we face in life. If we can focus on what we are grateful for, or find the tiny pleasure in that day, that helps us really create a foundation of positivity to keep taking another step forward. And then you step into growth, which is the second phase. That is the hardest part of this. That is where we are stretching, we are learning, we are vulnerable. We feel horrible about ourselves. We might be new at something. We're being told we suck, we're not good enough. And other people could be telling us to us, or we're telling ourselves that. And being able to push yourself through that growth cycle is done through resilience. You build your resilience to be able to face that growth cycle again and again, get knocked down and get back up with that resilience. Integrity is in there. It is so important to me because we have got to learn through this life not only to be honest with others, but we've got to be honest with ourselves. And I think I spent the majority of my life, the first part of my life, wanting to be anyone but dyslexic. And I wasn't being authentic and true to myself. So I felt misunderstood. It wasn't until I started being honest with myself and being grateful for the skills I did have that I truly started thriving. And so that integrity of learning your voice and to stand up for who you are, inherently, you just start doing that for others. And all of this is pulled through again and again with tenacity, to have that fire in your belly that makes you able to get back up and go through that growth cycle and have the resilience and make the hard choices to be honest, is all done with this vivacious positivity of tenacity. And being able to repeat that cycle over and over again just keeps leveling you up in your life, where you want to go, who you want to be, and reaching that summit.
Absolutely. I love the core principle of grit, and obviously it has done a lot for you.
It has. And how that ties back is I had first of all, I went into aerospace engineering, which was not easy as a dyslexic, or it was also a lot of misogyny being a female. And so really just kind of powering through that. And then I suffered a horrific snowboarding accident in the back bowls of Vail, woke up 14-inch titanium rod in my leg, told I'd have a wheelchair or cane the rest of my life. I think I was only 35. And right away, like laying in the hospital, I was like, no, it's not going to be my life. And I instantly started fighting and working towards recovery. Took me 2 years, and we found out I was allergic to titanium. But at that point, I had decided I had hiked. The outdoors was my therapy as a kid, something I felt good at. I did not feel good at school. And so I just wanted to go hike Kilimanjaro again, or Everest Base Camp. And that's all I focused on. And when I got there, I was so much stronger mentally. And then that's when I settled or decided on the seven summits and then the Explorers Grand Slam. But going back now and trying to think of where did I get, because people kept asking me, where did you get this grit? Where did you get this grit? And I finally traced it back is because I was a 7-year-old little kid that was emotionally abused and verbally abused by my teacher, calling me retarded and idiot, stupid, sitting me in the corner and abusing me, and my decision and the help from my parents to rise. And that is where that fire came from. And it has absolutely contributed to everything I've accomplished today.
Absolutely. Well, and you're always looking for the next challenge too, which I love. So, what made you want to try the show Outlast? Can you tell us a little bit about the process to get on and what your thought process was?
Yeah, it actually is fact. They reached out to me. They had a casting agency, and now that I know all the 15 other contestants, they did a really phenomenal job. I think they really went out. Some people applied because they'd seen the first season. I think about half of us they sought out or said, "Hey, would you be interested?" Sort of with everyone having a little bit different expertise, and then a lot of it is you don't know what group you're going to end up in. You could end up in like, yeah, we got 3 hunters and 1 complete survivalist. But you could end up in a group like mine where we had some certain skills, but I mean, I'm not a survivalist and I'm not a hunter. I'm really good in long endurance, uncomfortable, cold environments and pushing forward. I have that positivity and that mental attitude. But yeah, I was like, it's so funny on the show. I can't believe it wasn't in there, but I kept saying, I'm like, I am not a survivalist. I have no idea how to do this. But it was a challenge I definitely wanted to take on. I am not afraid to put myself in a brand new environment and totally suck at something. But it was so exciting and it was so thrilling. It was so amazing to watch other people and their skill sets. And I wanted to push myself, and I definitely pushed myself.
Absolutely. Well, and more about pushing yourself too. You were in some pretty extreme conditions. I mean, middle of nowhere, Alaska, freezing cold. How did the principles of grit serve you? Do you have any specific stories that come to mind?
Yeah, it was also your body was going through a lot. I mean, it
Mhm.
was very difficult. That area of Alaska is a national rainforest. So, sure, here in Colorado, where everything is so dry, so easy for me with like a ferro rod to start a fire. No brainer. When everything in your environment is wet, it's very difficult. And the 4 of us on my team, we were all like, we were a struggle bus. And so, really, those principles of grit always come in. And it's all of us, you can be in an environment and those negative voices come in like, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. I told you you shouldn't do that. And by this point, my grit voice is really, really strong. Like, well, we're here now. We're going to just deal with it. Let's see how it goes. And so it is being able to stay calm in a difficult situation, giving yourself some grace and some space to be able to go into solution mode instead of spending your energy on hate talk or doubt. Just put all that energy into mode. So being grateful for the opportunity to be there. And it was beautiful. It was savage and brutal, but it was beautiful. It was so amazing. And then being, allowing myself that area to grow. I knew that I was not an expert and everything was going to be growth for me. So I kind of got my mindset already ready for that. Like, this is going to hurt and you are going to feel horrible about not being able to do this or that, but you're going to keep trying. And so that resilience is you're going to get up the next day and you're going to try again and you're going to keep trying. And in this show, for anyone, oh my gosh, watch it. I have to tell you, like, it actually, they have so much footage to go through. What actually gets condensed in, all of us are like, oh man, I wish I had showed this part or this part. But really for us, our struggle was really keeping fire going. But it was every day 3 times a day. Let's try it again. Let's reevaluate that resilience to keep moving forward. The integrity portion is, and a lot of people on the show talk about integrity. I think this is a game. It is a game, and there's a huge prize at the end. And you have to think about your strategy going into it. How do I want to play this? And everyone has the right to play it the way they want. And if you went into it like, I'm going to do anything to win this, that's a whole different level. I knew for me, I wanted to go in really keeping my principles of grit, keeping integrity, and see how far that could take me, because that's what's most important to me and how I sleep at night. So being honest, having some hard conversations with people. And there's at some point, there are no spoilers, but I will tell you, for me in my journey, I think I had one of the absolute hardest decisions I've had to make as far as an expedition goes, because I had to be honest with myself about what was happening with my body. And you will get to see me go through it. They really don't go into the extent, but I knew there was something very wrong with my body, but I didn't know what. And I had to make some really hard decisions. And I'm so glad I did. All I'll say is by the time I got back to civilization, I had a shower and a normal night's sleep. I woke up the next day, fever, so sick. I had given myself shingles. And I thought they were spider bites. I'm like, I have these weird spider bites and I feel like my kidneys are failing. I had had shingles for probably 3 or 4 days
Oh
and
my
I didn't
gosh.
know. And the doctor was like, if you had even like they were just like, I can't believe like you walked in here. It was bad. So anyway, it was, it's so interesting, this journey and what the human body can do to get you through survival situations is just phenomenal to me. So with all this, wrapping it up, then see how excited I am that I had shingles, like that tenacity. Like I was so sick, but I was so excited to be there with that spirit. And even though you don't always get the summit, right? You don't always get the summit. You've got to love that journey and everything you learned. And from it now, I cannot wait to actually, it's made me a better mountaineer. It's made me a better explorer. I now have sought out a couple really great, like Survival University here in Colorado. Oh my gosh, it's like my new passion. There's nothing better than actually learning how to make fire and take care of yourself. And like, it's a whole nother level to my mountaineering that I'm so happy to take on.
Absolutely. Well, and I wanted to ask too, is there, you said that there's a lot of footage and not all of it makes it in. So what's something that you want people who are watching the show to know?
Yeah, I love that. There's so much. And of course, like it is a great show, and all of us are kind of the 16 of us chat. We're like, oh, hey, the thing they had me say about you, I didn't say that about you. But it's all fun and games. Like we are all, by the way, all of us are on this text chain together and just so supportive and happy for each other. It's really like I have so many great friends from this too. But one of the things I really want people to know, I actually talked about my neurodivergence and dyslexia a lot. I mean, every interview, because I was so solid in my gratitude of knowing that I was sitting there in this incredible place in Alaska in front of this camera because of my dyslexia, because it had made me so strong and it had given me the grit to be able to push through any challenge and, more importantly, be willing to take on any challenge. Because I think, and we all know this, growing up with dyslexia, with ADHD, I love how people say, well, I didn't have a choice. But you know what? Give yourself credit. You had a choice. You had a choice growing up to either let it make you better or have it take you down and use it as an excuse. It made me strong. It made me so much better. It was tough and it hurt, but it allowed me to become the kind of person that's like, oh, hell, I have no idea how to survive in the wilderness, but I'm going to go throw myself out there. Let's go do it. Knowing that no matter what happened in the end, I would be okay and I would keep moving forward. And all of that is really the strength that dyslexia, neurodivergence, ADHD has given me. And Like I said before, I spent the first part of my life wanting to be anyone but dyslexic. And the second part of my life, I would not want to be anyone else but who I am as neurodivergent. And I really, especially want kids to hear this, that it sucks growing up with it. It is hard. It is going to hurt, but you can keep choosing to take another step forward. You can become an engineer. You can get to the top of Everest. You can be on an amazing Netflix reality show by learning to be who you are and really just developing those skills and learning to love yourself.
Absolutely. And I just also finding what you're passionate about and what your strengths are and what you love, like you did, how the outdoors was like this refuge for you.
It really was. And, I think we talked about this the first time too. And I didn't realize how much it was. It was twofold for me. My father was a brilliant Rhodes Scholar at MIT, like physicist, just brilliant. I have a brother and sister. They don't have dyslexia. I had such a supportive family. They were wonderful to me. My mother made my home environment normal. But I still felt so much shame and embarrassment and guilt. And my dad, though, also loved the outdoors. And my brother and sister weren't as into it. So that was our thing together. And I would see the light in his eyes as starting to hike with him when I was really young. And then I remember the day I could go faster than him. And I remember the light in his eyes, like, holy crap, like, look at you go, girl. And that just filled my heart with self-esteem. And I think I used that to put into school. And then I did very well in school because, again, it has nothing to do with my IQ or my intellect. I paid attention in school. I got great grades. I mean, it was fine. I did great. It caught up with me in college. I had to work much harder, but it helped build my confidence for me. And my dad and I then went on to climb Kilimanjaro together, which was really, really cool. But that's another thing for anyone that is challenged anywhere in life. It doesn't have to be neurodivergence either, is really look for that thing, that gratitude. Look for that thing that fills your soul and gives you joy. Tap back into that anytime you're feeling low, let it recharge you, and then go use your energy to keep moving forward in the goal you're trying to achieve. And for me, it was always the outdoors. And so when I had my shattered leg, that is the carrot I thought of. I'm like, I want to return. I had a group of friends going to hike to just Everest Base Camp. And I was like, I want to be on that hike. I want to be on that hike. And that was my goal. And I made it. And then, yeah, then you discover how much stronger you are emotionally and mentally. And then I was like, oh, well, I'll go to Kilimanjaro again. And then that was a piece of cake. And then I was like, well, hell, what's the highest peak in South America? Let's go do that.
Well, and I know you mentioned that you weren't able, well, you talked a lot about neurodiversity, but it necessarily didn't get into the show. But even so, what does it mean to you to be an advocate for neurodiversity and to have this visibility that comes from something as large as being on a Netflix show?
I'm tearing up because I just like my heart is beaming. It means so much to me to be able to tell a little me at 7 years old, you are going to get through this and you are going to thrive and you are going to love yourself and you will no longer be embarrassed of who you are. And that's so important to me to be able to tell kids because I think anyone you talk to, any adult that we think back to our childhood, our hearts just hurt because it was so painful. And I'm almost done with, I've been talking about writing this book forever. And I have to tell you, that's another thing is that I am writing this book. I am not using a ghostwriter. I am not using AI. This is a bigger challenge to me than Everest or anything else, but I wanted to do it because it does hurt. It's horrible, but I wanted to get through to prove to myself I could. But going back and talking about my childhood, you realize how much you compartmentalize.
Yeah.
Dyslexia, I can never say the word. Anyway, but how you store things away, you store pain away to convince yourself you're fine and move on. I have to tell you, I'm writing this book and going through the experience I had with this horrible teacher. And I'd have to take a break and I'm just bawling like in my office. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe how much pain I covered up as a kid. And I do realize everyone has that. Every person has something in their life, but that is such a survival mode that we go into as humans. And I'm lucky I'm having the opportunity to go back And some people are like, well, I don't want to relive things. I'm like, no, like I get to actually release who I was then and let them heal, like really at a deeper level. So it's been this amazing experience. And it also gives me the insight to now go back to kids that age and really be like, man, I know, I remember, I know how it felt. And I'm encouraging you so much to not try to be someone else. Walk through the fire right now as who you are and try to be that person. Build the love for that person because you're going to end up coming back to that person anyway when you're an adult.
Absolutely. Well, and could you tell us too, just a little bit about dealing with disappointments and, things not always working out? Could you tell us about your progress on the Explorers Grand Slam and what was the latest update with, you were so close to completing it. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's another thing just with, I mean, grit. Grit is, I like to say a lot of times, grit isn't just reaching the summit, and grit isn't pushing through absolute any pain to get what you want. Grit is also about patience and grace and giving yourself time and understanding and forgiveness. And it's funny, I think about my journey through the seven summits, and I was really lucky. I mean, I did a lot of work to be skilled, but also a lot of luck with weather, amazing teams. I was a first attempt summiter on a lot of these. And finally, when it came to Everest, I was 2 weeks out from going in 2021, and this little thing called COVID happened. I had trained so hard for an entire year and then done. And they're like, nope, no one's going. You have to wait a whole nother year to train. And training for Everest or K2 or some of these bigger mountains, like it's a different level of training. They say don't be in the best shape of your life, be in Everest shape of your life. You want to be able to move fast at high altitude. So trained another year, went back in 2022 on the mountain for like 6.5, 7 weeks. We were ready for summit bid. And then our climbing Sherpa got the Delta variant of COVID. Everyone off the mountain, we're done, season's over, go home. I was like, but the top's right there. No, okay. Train another year. And so this really at this point, I knew for myself, I was like, this is what expedition is about. Not just hitting the summit the first time. I'm like, this is what this is about. Embrace from this, learn this journey, be okay with it. So I really got really patient with things and I'd fill it with others. So after I summited Everest in 2022, then I finished the seven summits with Kosciuszko. In there, I'm also trying to do Karzant's Pyramid, which is the other version, Mesner version, Indonesia. I've been on a waiting list for that since 2019, and it's been closed down. So I'm like, that one's back burner. But now North Pole, right? So we're supposed to go in North Pole in 2022. 2 weeks before, got canceled. I was like, I've been down this road before. So honestly, I was like, chill. I'm just like, I know how to deal with this, a lifetime of learning with from disappointment and how to deal with it. In my 40s, I'm like, I think I finally have got this down. And so then I went last year. It was so hairy, the logistics. We actually had to go through Siberia. I was more nervous about that than anything else. I'm more nervous than polar bears or crevasses. I was like, wow, it's a heated geopolitical situation. I'm nervous, but I got to give this a shot. So a small team of us went. We were there for 2 weeks, and then the ice did not, it wouldn't hold. The global warming is just more rapidly happening than we thought. So after 2 weeks being there, go home. We got to try again next year. And so I was just, and honestly, at that point, I'm like, all right, well, that's what we got to do. So I'm in the pause, waiting for that year to come back around. I think we'll pull it back a few weeks to hopefully the ice will be firmer. So I will be going probably in March, this coming up year. But in between, Karzant's Pyramid has opened up after 5 years. 50 permits are there. I've got one. And so I leave in 16 days now on September 22nd to complete the other version of the seven summits. And it's hard with stats of how many, but approximately maybe like 25 women have ever done that, both versions. So I'm so excited to go and get back on the mountain, get into some technical stuff again, and then I'll come back, finish my book, and then I'm off to the North Pole to finish the Explorers Grand Slam, becoming the 5th U.S. woman to ever complete that.
That's so exciting. Well, we'll be keeping our fingers crossed for you in March and also for your upcoming expedition too. That's so exciting.
I know, and I will always bring my little sign.
I love
Yay!
it. Dyslexia gave me grit.
It
It's
did. I held this at the
fantastic.
summit of Everest, and it's so important for me to do that. And I love and for anyone who is watching this if you're self neurodivergent or has a child who is blessed to be neurodivergent, please have them follow me to the adventure. Look for the sign. It's just a great way for our community to unite and celebrate each other.
Absolutely. Well, and Megan, how can people follow you? Would you mind giving us your Instagram, your website, just so people who are listening can follow you?
We'll do it here. So there's GRIT.
Perfect.
GGRIT. I would love it. That is my website. That's my Instagram. On Facebook, I'm GRIT Team, but luckily all of that is connected together. And yeah, and I tell you what, I've got so many great opportunities coming up too. I'm going to be speaking at a couple of universities for their dyslexia symposiums coming up. Please contact me too. I'm so happy to send messages to schools or do just really to inspire kids and help them feel good about themselves where they're out, and encourage them to keep taking steps through the difficult portions. And also, I love speaking to companies about grit, the principles in general. Again, it doesn't have to be about neurodivergence. It is about anything, women in tech, just companies reaching you as an individual and or a team, reaching your full potential, learning to knock down those negative voices and step into just, all possibility.
Absolutely. Well, and I love keeping up with what you're doing. I'm sure we'll have you on the show here before too long again. But Megan, thank you so much for being on the show. Like I said, it's always a pleasure, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
I love it. And I have my banner. I've got an LDA banner. And so that will be going to the top of the other 7 summits, Carson's Pyramid with me, and then, of course, to the North Pole, because I always love climbing to help spread awareness for you guys. I love what you have been doing, and you keep it up too.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure. Thank you for listening to the LDA podcast. To learn more about LDA and to get valuable resources and support, visit ldaamerica.org.